Uh, Good day, people. Alex K here with another review of all things. It's been a long time, I would say. Last one was Godzilla, but I didn't plan on doing this one. Honestly, it just kind of happened. Let's see. Yep, I'm good. Yep, everything's going well. Just checking with my system. So I did not intend to watch this originally. A friend of the family wanted to, so I kind of like, okay, fine, I'll go take it. I'll go take you to see it. And it's the newest James, Double Seven James Bond movie, star and the fifth and final one to star Daniel Craig. The very much controversial No Time to Die. Controversial, particularly due to the fact that the people running it, making it, just did not shut the hell up about their agendas, if to say the least. To a very, what I would say, not really favorite era of James Bond for me. Okay, so I've never really talked about it much because it's been a franchise that I haven't really been invested in for a while. But growing up as a kid and as a teenager, James Bond 007, you knew him, you loved him, you wanted to be him. What more could you not want? This suave British agent going into exotic locales and stopping evildoers the world over with his with his fancy guns and gadgets, and of course, attracting the most beautiful women left and right in his adventures. And of course, Sean Connery, the GOAT, followed by Roger Moore, and before him, the one guy in the one James Bond movie nobody talks about much. Uh, Followed, of course, after that, it was Timothy Dalton, followed by Pierce Brosnan, and now we have Daniel Craig, which I'm going to be honest, out of all the James Bond eras, Craig's is the one that I've watched the least. I don't know what it is. It's just for whatever reason, out of all the eras of James Bond, this is the one that I've rewatched the least amount. I have seen Casino Royale once. I have seen Skyfall once. I have seen Spectre once. For whatever reason, I never got around to watching Quantum of Solace. I've heard people say they hated it. I've seen other people say they loved it. I don't know. I can't say. I haven't watched it. It's one of those where it's like Terminator Salvation. I just never got around to watching it, but I kind of want to, just to say I have. But there comes this movie. Now, I was all years ago, I was under the impression Spectre was supposed to be the last Craig movie, but they roped him into another one. Now, when it comes to the Craig movies themselves, as to why I've only ever watched them once, it's because they never really had the spirit of James Bond to me. They always felt, how should I say this? They always felt James Bond in name, like they were trying too hard to be Jason Bourne with Bond's name in attached to it. And as a result, it didn't really do it for me. And to me, I like the ideas, or at least the concepts involved in the Craig films. I like the idea of an older, grizzled James Bond who's been at this for so long, he's just like he wants to basically stop. I like that idea that he's been at this for a very long time. In a way, it's also kind of a meme because this is basically, out of all the eras of James Bond, this is the one where Bond has basically retired the most, only to get roped back in because somebody just keeps fucking with him, and and the man just wants to be left alone at the end of the day. Casino Royale, at the end of that movie, he tried to retire. Didn't work. Vesper betrayed him and killed herself. Not counting Quantum of Solace, you had Skyfall where he's, retired, but he gets roped back in. He's out of shape and gets back in shape. Skyfall, we meet Madeline, who he falls in love with, and of course, finally have the main villain of Bond in general, Blofeld, finally show up. And Blofeld was a villain that had not been seen since probably the Roger Moore era, from what I understand. So it's like, okay, a little late. Sorry, just putting in like notifications in there. So yeah, the last movie, Spectre, we ended it with Bond walking into the nightlife with Madeline and Blofeld arrested. Spectre was okay. Could have been better, but it was okay. It just felt like it had more that could have been done with it. Fast forward to this movie years later, and by the way, this is going to be a very spoiler heavy review because I cannot talk about this movie without spoiling the hell out of it for all intents and purposes. So be warned. So movie starts with Bond with Madeline going to a town in Italy where he wants to go pay respects to, Eva Green's character because he hasn't fully gotten over it. Only to be ambushed, like a bomb placed in her tomb, which is like hella disrespectful. And what happened? And so he's getting chased all around, including by the main henchman of the movie, played by a guy whose name I don't know and I've never seen. And yeah, I don't know his name. Bond just calls him Cyclops in the movie because he has a robot eye. Yeah. And he thinks, and because Blofeld, despite being in prison, is calling through, Maddie's phone, and all this, and he's being chased all around by Spectre agents. He thinks she set him up, and they get ambushed. He uses his classic Bond car with machine guns to mow fuckers down, and eventually they manage to get away, and he sends her off on a train, saying, like, wishing her good luck. Like she's telling him, begging him, like, no, I didn't do this. You've been set up, and it wasn't by me. But of course, Bond, he's like, he's tired, he's old, he just wants to be left alone at this point completely. So he sends her off on a train, and 5 years later is when the movie really starts. He's out in some Caribbean island. I want to say it's Jamaica, probably. I'm not sure. Yeah. Let me see. Was it? Yeah, Jamaica. Yep. I looked up the summary. And we have Felix. Wow, and Megatron 95. Hello, man. Wow, they're really making Bond to be like a complete dumbass. That is not even the stupidest thing about the movie. And trust me, I'll get to it at the end of the whole plot summary. And during that time, now the villain of the movie, it's not Blofeld. Well, we also get a flashback as well where we see Madeline getting in her childhood because she's the daughter of Mr. White. Well, it turns out Blofeld and Mr. White had screwed over one too many people, and one of them comes gunning for Mr. White for her and her mom. Her mom gets killed. She manages to get away, and she even manages to a younger version of her shoots him and knocks him out, and she falls into a lake filled with ice, and she almost drowns, but he saves her, and the movie finally goes back up to speed with Bond in Jamaica, and we have he gets sought out by both the CIA and MI6 with Felix, Felix, who's played by Jeffrey Wright, and there's another dude with him, Ash, and turns out what happened was the real villain of this movie, he steals a nanobot virus from MI6 that M had developed and had shut away, and now it's loose, and they're like, okay, this guy, whoever he is, went and stole. Well, actually, that's no. Correction. It was Blofeld that went and stole the virus, but the other villain, the real main villain, who I just described, is in behind the scenes, watching it all happen, and he has this Russian doctor who's like been working with MI6, turned traitor on them, and they steal this nanovirus. Spectre intends to make use of it, and of course, CIA and MI6 want to get it. Of course, the CIA go to Bond first with Felix reaching out to him, and Bond, of course, doesn't want to do it. He just wants to be retired and completely and left alone. It's also here that he also ended up running into Lashana Lynch's character, who was heavily pushed in the marketing, and yeah, she's like, they gave me your position. Don't get in our way, otherwise you're gonna get a bullet or whatever. So a good chunk of the movie is them having basically a pissing match between the two, with Lynch, Nomi is her character name. What's her name? Yeah, Nomi, no last name given, and so Bond is like, okay, Blofeld's involved somehow. Fuck it, get involved, right? Because God forbid. So he works with the CIA. We also meet this other agent who they go to Cuba. He rendezvous with this one chick. Let me find her. She's a minor character, so she's not there much. Paloma, played by Ana de Armas, and the movie is in simultaneously two tones at once, where it's like it has its serious moments, but at the same time, it's also trying to be more fun. You know how I've said this? The Craig era has struggled the most when it comes to trying to be James Bond the most, but just doesn't feel like it a lot of time. I will give this movie some credit. They actually try to give that old-fashioned Bond spirit. The music is there. The jokes are there. Daniel Craig, he actually tries in this movie, for the most part. He tries to act, the suave, witty James Bond that we all know and love, right? And we like him for that. And I actually felt that they actually tried with this one. He isn't just stoic the whole time. Tone is like an MCU film. Kind of, to a slight extent. Let me explain. I mean, the old James Bond movies, they've always been funny. Like, I get that. But there were, when I heard they put Phoebe Waller-Bridge involved, who, I mean, come on, why are people hiring this woman? She's about as funny as her name, in which she's not. There are bits where there is a bit of a tonal shift where what wit and banter I get is kind of undermined by some rather, because he meets this agent who's like, again, not in the film very long, but she's like, I've trained for 3 weeks. Here I am, basically. So we're kind of played up to have this character be kind of a dote. And yet when she picks up a machine gun and a handgun, she's like a wizard with him. So it's like, okay, what tone are you trying to settle on, film? So they find the Russian guy. They find the Russian guy at a party in Cuba that all of Spectre is attending, and it's a trap for James. So he's in there. Blofeld is, of course, communicating from his cell somehow, and they spray the virus to what was the intention of going on to infecting Bond, but instead it does infect him, but it doesn't kill him. It instead infects and kills everyone else. So this mystery villain has basically hijacked, where he's basically hijacked Blofeld's plan, kills all of Spectre, and of course everything just kind of goes a little, shall we say, it's like, what happened? Who's this villain going around killing the other villain we've all feared for a while? But so they get the Russian scientist. They evac him, and in the whole, basically it's, remember the pissing match that I mentioned? Well, you have Bond trying to get him. You have Nomi trying to get him, and Bond basically makes off with him with the help of Paloma, and so he takes the scientist onto a plane, goes and meets Felix on the ship, but it turns out that Logan ends up being a traitor in the pocket of the real villain of the movie, and Felix dies. Yeah, he gets shot, and the boat gets blown up, and Felix dies. So there's your first legacy character put to bed. And of course, with one of the longest recurring characters, now suddenly dead, Bond, he goes and meets with MI6, right? And of course, he's like, fine, you want my help? I'll give you my help. And, M tells them about this nanovirus that they had made, how it was meant to be for good causes, which, of course, is a stupid excuse. I mean, dude, I get that you're trying to make something that would make operations go much more faster and cleaner than regular run-of-the-mill agent work, but it's a freaking virus, dude. You probably should a nanovirus. You probably should have thought of that before you greenlit this thing. So money pit. But Bond, of course, they don't want to give. M doesn't want to let Bond in on the whole thing, so he goes to Moneypenny and Q. They figure out what the virus is and that it's meant to kill a hell of a lot of people, coded to kill a lot of people. So, eventually they're like, fine, get back involved and talk to Blofeld. Find out how he's doing all this. And they rope Madeline into it because, she's she's tied to him, of course, being, with Spectre and Mr. Light and all that. And then it's around this time that we meet the real villain of the whole thing, a dude by the name of Lucifer Safin, played by Rami Malek, and I have a problem with him. Let me check. No one wants to enter yet. No one wants to enter. Okay. And he had saved her years ago, and basically it's like he's like the devil. Like, I save you, you're mine. Basically, you do what I say. He gives her this virus thing to spray on her hands, so when they go meet Blofeld, Blofeld will basically die, and spoiler alert, he does, because Bond and Maddie get reunited when they go to interrogate the man. Yeah, the dude with the weird face who played Freddie Mercury in that one movie. And so yeah, she's supposed to go in a kill Blofeld without anyone knowing it with that nanovirus. And so she and Bond, they're together again, more or less. But she does not go through with the interrogation. She in fact ducks out of it, but not before Bond notices she's like quaking and shaking in fear. He was in that PS4 game Until Dawn. I never played Until Dawn, have no intention of doing so. So I don't know. But he grabs her hand, so he ends up getting infected with the nanovirus unknowingly. So, she leaves. Blofeld's brought into the room. Bond is, trying to get info out of him. But Blofeld, of course, plays mind games, which finally gets to a point where Bond snaps and he puts him in a headlock and almost kills the man, but of course restrains himself enough where he doesn't do it and finally leaves him alone. And so Tanner, one of the other MI6 dudes, is like, Bond, you violated the rule book. And he's like, yeah, and before anyone knows it, Blofeld dies. Yes, because the virus intended to kill him. Craig Bond touched Maddie on the hand where she sprayed it with the little cologne dispenser, I think it was. So he's now got the nanovirus, and he inadvertently killed Blofeld with it. And so he's like, you're fine, you're not gonna die, but it was programmed to kill him. And blah blah blah. They figure out that Safin. They eventually figure out that before that, Bond tracks Madeline down to her old home where she's living with, funny enough, a daughter. Where Bond's like, who's she? And he's like, she's not yours, but we all know. It's obvious. It's Bond's daughter. Hell, she even touches her when she gets put on the train at the beginning of the movie. She touches her belly at that very it's a split second moment, but it pretty much it's obvious. She was pregnant with Bond's child. And so, and by the end of the movie, yeah, he says, yeah, I knew the whole time. Because who else would she have been? And so they're trying to catch up, and he confesses, hey, I love you. I should not have done what I did by putting you on that train. I've regretted it for the last 5 years. And so they're next day so it's like Nomi's supposed to be catching up on a lead. But it turns out they're getting followed by Safin, whose men goes after Bond in a car chase through the forest. And in the forest fight, he kills Ash. He lets a car crush the dude. And he goes back to the cabin they were hiding in to make sure they're fine. But they of course, Madeline and her daughter Matilda. I think it's Matilda. It's French, so there's an E at the end that's silent. So forgive me if I'm misspelling her name. Safin kidnaps both of them, takes them both to an old Soviet bunker on an island between Russia and Japan, showing his operation. And he's, of course, big bad villain. I'm gonna destroy the world with my poisons and viruses. There's really, really not much to him. Oh, and in the house before the forest fight, Maddie takes James to one of Mr. White's little locker rooms in the house, where she reveals that Safin. Remember what I said about Mr. White and Blofeld pissing off too many people to the point that one of them ended up coming back to bite them in the ass? Well, Safin's one of them. He had been part of a family of some kind. basically his family got. I must have missed it because I don't know what his whole family's job was in relation to Blofeld, but whatever that was, they did. They did something or ended up being a target of Blofeld, where he set up an operation that killed Safin's whole family except for him, and so that basically started up on getting him on a revenge trip against everyone involved with Spectre and Blofeld, and of course that includes Maddie. And of course James, who's in the crossfire of all the whole thing. So so back on track. They're on the island. He's gonna release the nanovirus. Bond, of course, Bond in the meantime gets his 007 code name back, which Nomi's like, okay, you're the genuine article. You deserve it. So they don't go fully into the deconstruction-ish nonsense that I was expecting, but it still does a few things by the end that this is where the movie really gets to really piss me off. So, they go on that island, the both of them. They find the Russian dude. They find all the viruses and poisons that he's using and plans to unleash. And of course Russia and Japan and then the Americans, they're all closing in as well. They want to blow up the island, or well, they have to blow up the island before they do. So, but the bunkers that are keeping the virus farm from getting blown up is closed. So unless Bond opens those doors up, there's no boom basically. And they split up. They go about to go do their thing. Nomi has the Russian scientist, and who's very annoying, sadly. And what happens is he keeps mouthing off one too many stupid things to the point where she finally loses patience and dumps him into a virus pool where he gets to where he dies, almost like acid, basically. And meanwhile, Bond is chasing after Safin and looking for Madeline and his daughter. And he eventually finds both of them. Well, sort of. He finds Safin first with the girl, Matilda. And he pretty much is the first to confirm it, where he's like, this is your kid, and if you make one move, she's dead. And Bond goes on his knees saying, he's trying to tell him, like, no, you're an evil piece of shit motherfucker, and I'm gonna kill you, basically. And Safin's making his whole big villain speech, and it's one that I surprisingly found appropriate, where he's like, why am I doing this? Because people are stupid. They all claim to want freedom and liberty, but in reality, they would all throw themselves down to be slaves, servants. He's basically a socialist. And he threatens to kill the girl if Bond tries anything. And of course, Bond is like, fine, you win. And he goes down on his hands and knees, but it's a ruse, because he draws out his gun as he's in the fetal position, sort of, and shoots the guards. But there's of course Safin has a secret elevator that takes him downstairs before he can reach them. So he goes chasing after them. He meets up with Maddie, who had gotten separated, and they eventually, in the meantime, Matilda bites Safin on the hand as he's taking her away, and he's like, okay, fine, go then. So they eventually find the girl. Bond, shuttles her, sends her off with Nomi to get on the boat off, while he stays behind to open the doors for the cruise missiles. And there's a big stairway fight where Bond goes and grenades are getting tossed, shots are being fired, and he also has an EMP watch that that Q gave him in order to disable cameras and shit. And so he ends up in the final fight with Cyclops, the henchman, and he uses the EMP wash to short circuit the robot eye he has, which basically blows his brain out internally anyway, because, electric shock directly to the brain. He's fried, basically. And he opens the doors. He starts to go back up so he can, escape, right? Then, the doors are closing, and so he has to go again for some reason. So he goes back, only to get shot a couple of times by Safin. They get into a fist fight, and Safin slaps a glass case onto his face, which scratches him. And Craig just breaks the fucker's arm with his bare hands. And Safin is like, "Yeah, I infected you with a new nanovirus, meaning that has Madeline's blood on it. So if you go anywhere near her, if you kiss her, she's dead." And so we have Bond bleeding out in the facility, infected with a virus that'll kill the woman he loves if he leaves, if so much as he goes within 5 feet of her. And he's got less than 4 minutes left to leave the island, and he can't. So all he can do is just open the bunker doors so the missiles can penetrate the virus facility in the island. And so, yeah, she's crying. She's on the radio crying her heart out, like, "I love you. She's your daughter, Bond. I love you." And he's like, "I know. And, I love you too," that kind of thing. And Bond is basically with nowhere to go, even though I could easily fix this plot easily. I will explain. And he watches them. He dies on the rooftop of the bunker on the island, watching the missiles come down. And he dies staring up with a smile on his face, knowing he at least saved his kid and Madeline. And it's James Bond freaking dies in this movie. I could have probably forgiven everything else in this movie, no matter how minor or major, but this was where it really lost me, because it did not feel right. It did not feel right to me. So yeah, Bond's dead, and everyone, for the first time ever in the franchise. He's officially been killed off in the final movie of the actor's respective series playing him. And world is saved, Safin's dead, no more virus. Hunky dory. MI6, everyone, M, Moneypenny, Q, Nomi, and Tanner, they're in M's office. They have a drink in Bond's honor, honoring his memory. And the movie ends with Madeline taking Matilda to, through the mountain streets of Italy, just like at the beginning of the movie. And she starts, it's like, "I'm going to tell you about a man named James Bond, your father." And they go into a tunnel, and kind of like mirroring, which kind of mirrors the whole gun of the barrel of the gun thing. And the movie ends, and it was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Jesus Christ, one of the longest Bond movies I've probably ever seen in my life. So yeah. That's the plot, basically, of No Time to Die. And I really don't know how I feel about this movie, to be honest. The parts that are good are really good. Like, I will say the movie is not as bad as they really, really wanted to make you think. And by they, I mean the fuckers managing the project. Because they were like they were all about how they wanted to basically go. They were all mouthing off about how much they wanted to emasculate Bond or so on and so forth, and they didn't do that completely. But you could tell there were definitely scenes where they clearly went and redid them, so they didn't fully do that because everyone was like, "How dare you?" Rightfully so, basically. And I will give the film props. Like, the action's good. Hans Zimmer's music is very good. I would say this is probably one of the better scores, especially for Bond, that he's done that I can remember. But then again, I have not seen the other Craig movies more than once, so my memory for them is shot as it is. But he does do a good soundtrack where it's both action packed and tense at the same time. So I liked it in that respect. I also thought the film was more witty in that it reminiscent of older Bond films, but I liked that. That was something that kind of really annoyed me about Casino Royale and Skyfall, and to an extent, Spectre. It's just not a very joyful series of films. Like with the older films, even when they were rather serious, they were still fun, you know? Whereas here, it kind of felt too dour, too like it's trying to be Jason Bourne with James Bond's name on it, like I said. But here, I honestly felt that Craig finally was given material that was more reminiscent of classic Bond. 5 movies late, but it's about time. So, in that regard, it's enjoyable to watch, especially where the bullets start flying. So, music wise, sound quality wise, general acting wise, it's good there. The problem I have with the film is everything else. Like I said, they apparently brought Phoebe Bridge to work on it in like scenes where you can tell, yeah, she wrote a couple of these comedy scenes, and they kind of like jerk the film left field, especially where the rookie agent in Cuba that I mentioned, where it's like, yeah, you could tell this was her handiwork, and it didn't really do it for me. But everything else, okay. The Russian scientist character, annoying also until he gets killed by Lynch's character. Christoph Waltz, of course, barely has any time in the movie. He as Blofeld. He gets killed, but in the scene, but the one scene he's in, he owns it, but it's not enough of him. I really liked Leia Seydoux as Madeline Swan. I liked her fine in this film as well. I thought they gave her a little. I thought she was fine in the movie, and I do admit I liked the idea of Bond where he's shacked up with that to a point where with enough women to a point where now at least one of them he finally settles down with, and she actually has his kid. Like, that's something we've never gotten in previous movies, where eventually, you know, one of them was bound to eventually have his offspring. And I admit I like the concept of an older Bond trying to settle down. But how they ultimately ended it was where the film really pissed me off. Hold on. Randy on Twitter said, when it got to the part where Bond was crying about never touching his family again, any respect I had for Craig's version just disappeared. I kind of get what he's saying. I kind of get what he's saying. Follow him on Twitter, Randy M at the elusive eye. He's elusive with an E. He's a cool dude. Follow him. I get what he's saying. It's like Bond would not be this emotional. Like he would be stoic, as stiff as he would be as stoic as an Easter Island statue. He wouldn't let it get to him. So in that in regard, yeah, I get it. I understand that complaint. But I get on the same time, I also get the intention of trying to make James Bond a little more emotional and vulnerable. In which case, the whole kid angle, I get that. I mean, come on, a father trying to save his children and the woman that birthed them, that's something primeval that I think we can all relate to. But at the same time, I can understand why he would have that complaint. Bond would not break down like that. He would be royally pissed to the point where he probably would not show such weakness. At least that's what I'm getting out of it. So, but then I will get to the death thing in a minute. But then you get to the Safin character. On one hand, I want to like him as a villain. But on the other hand, I don't like him as a villain because other than the whole Blofeld killing his family, so he's going to. I mean, you had me to a point where it's like, okay, Blofeld went and killed one too many people to the point where one of them finally said, okay, fucker, I'm coming after you and everyone associated with you. So that made sense. But then they go off the wall with the whole nanovirus thing where he's now going to go kill everybody in the world, or at least enough people where he makes a serious dent in the world population. Yeah, he's basically Koronov-chan, the villain in the movie. That's what he really is. But after he kills Blofeld, it's like, why bother? Why are you even doing any of this shite? Basically, you've killed the big bad Bond villain of all time. You've avenged your family. What more do you fucking want, basically? So it's like, why are you doing this at this point? Why are you going through this extra trouble? And then you get to the nanovirus bit where it's like it's like the nanobots plot point from Metal Gear Solid 4, where Solid Snake's, he gets infected with that strain. It's like the nanobot plot from Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 4, where he's got the fox dye virus in him, and the targeted people that he comes into that Solid Snake comes into contact with dies inadvertently from being around him. So they basically decided to rip that off, except it's so freaking haphazard with how stupid it's handled. It's like, okay, Bond it kills Blofeld by accident because he infected himself with it without knowing it. Okay. So now he's infected by it, but it's not programmed to kill anyone else. So now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, why even bother with that? And they make a big shtick about how the nanobots cannot be removed. Once they're in you, they're in you. There's no getting them out. To which I question. I talked to my friend of the family I went to see it with, and I told him, Q literally just gave him a watch that can emit an electromagnetic pulse. The solution is literally on his wrist. All he has to do is shock himself with an electromagnetic pulse from the watch, and the nanobots get fried. Bingo. Problem solved. No need for that. It's like you literally wrote the movie solution right there in front of you. And but of course they don't use the existing nano. And of course, do they do anything with the existing nanobots in James Bond's bloodstream to maybe make the plot point later on work? Hell no. Instead, Safin pulls a Deus Ex. I mean, yeah, they show him picking up the vial a few scenes earlier in the film before he smacks Bond in the face with it. But come on. You couldn't have done something with the virus already in hit with the one already in him. He literally pulls a Deus Ex out of his ass, smacks Bond in the face with it, and now he's infected with it. It's like, okay. And I checked the summary, and yes, it's not a regular flower poison. It is a nanobot virus poison. So again, I bring up the electromagnetic pulse watch. Why Bond doesn't just shock himself with it and kill off the bots like that, I have no idea. The movie completely... Fuji... What's the director's name? What's his fucking name? Fukunaga. And Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah, four writers too many. Yeah, why? And none of them thought that Bond could have saved himself with the watch, with the electromagnetic pulse. Doesn't work for me. You literally wrote the answer to his problem on his wrist, and you don't even freaking use it. Like, what the fuck, man? You literally just solved the movie's problem just as it started, and and so on and so forth. And of course, yeah, it can't be removed. Blah blah blah. Fuck you. And Bond dies at the end, wishing, Madeline and his daughter a happy life, and he gets blown up on the island. So, you know what I also hate? You know what stereotype in Hollywood I also hate? This silly trend of the father figure dying while his loved one and children live to see another day. Can we stop that? Can we stop this trend, please? I'd like to actually have the father figure main character actually live for once. And you know what is... That's also a bigger problem that highlights the entirety of the Craig movies. You have this long-running subplot of Craig James, trying to retire because he no longer wants to serve anymore. Most of the women involved in his life get killed off from being associated with him, and he finally finds one. The one that he finally thinks he's home free with. Like, finally, I'm good. I don't have to do this anymore. But of course, some idiot has to come and ruin it all for him. And by idiot, I mean both the villain and the writers, because God forbid the villain actually be satisfied with the goal he what did I click? Oh, hold on, I pressed a button. Hold on. Is it running? Is it running? What did I click? Oh, hold on, I pressed a button. Hold on. Is it running? Is it running? Okay, everything's fine. Just pressed a button on my headset that I didn't mean to press, but it didn't seem to do anything. So yeah, villain that does not know his limits and just wants to kill more people. Writers, of course, that, for all, I've looked up the couple of review summaries as well. It's like they're all saying that, oh, this movie's fresh or with good ideas, but then no. It's not filled with new ideas. Well, it is, just not very well handled. And the last idea that you think is new really isn't new. It's just a generic father dying so his kids can live kind of thing. Can we not have that no more? Can we have that no more? Come on. So they basically lazily wrote Bond into dying in this movie as Craig's final end, when honestly it would have been better just to have him live, especially since it's tradition. Bond has never died in any of the movies, not even at the end movies of the respective actors. Connery lived, Moore lived, Dalton for the two movies he had lived. It's like they were, and Brosnan also. It's like they tried to do a Your Majesty's Secret Service kind of ending, but reversed. Where in Majesty's Secret Service, Bond's girl in that movie got killed by Blofeld, whereas in this movie, Bond himself gets killed. So yeah. So yeah, it felt it's not it's yeah, it's both new ideas that are not so new and ones that are new not handled as well as I wished. Oh god, this movie. You know, I'm not going to say it's Last Jedi bad, but the very end of the film does, the way it ends with how Bond dies, it just pissed me off. Like by the end of the movie, I was like, before that, I was willing to let the movie go. I was willing to let it get a pass. Like, okay, you tried some things I didn't like, but you're at least watchable, you know? You tried to be reminiscent of old Bond. You did. You really did. But then you gotta go and piss it away by killing him off at the end of the movie for no fucking reason, because God forbid we actually let the hero actually, the father figure character actually live by the end of it. God forbid we let that, we not, God forbid we actually let that happen instead of just killing him off again. Also, I was just about to say it until I had that little tech problem. Yeah, the whole subplot they set with Bond trying to retire until he finally finds, when he finds a woman he loves and has a future with. Yeah, they sweep that from under him because of the death. So as a result of that, it's like they gave Bond no progression. He's had no progression in these movies, and when they finally were giving him the progression, they made us think they finally were giving him, he dies. So it's like, okay, why did you even bother with any of that in the first place? It honestly would have been better off had Bond lived. They finally give the man that the girl he can settle down with and enjoy his golden years with and watch his kid grow up. They could have done that, but they had to go with the old tropey, he dies at the end and the kid and wife live. That's all they did, when it could have been so much better. So yeah, I I have a lot of issues with this movie. It's well shot, I guess. The music is fine. Craig finally had a script that allowed him to be Bond more so than he was in the previous movies. It's just everything else. And I really liked the Bond girl of this movie, Madeline. The problem is just the whole movie just falls apart by the end, because you have a villain that just does not stop even after he's done the thing that he set out to do. You already won, man. What more do you want? And of course, a James Bond that is not allowed to finally end the movie, with everything. I mean, Bond's always won his previous movies with everything, but not like this. I mean, you finally ended on a way, at least for the Craig era anyway, where it's like, okay, this version of Bond can finally have a peaceful existence with someone he cares about and not have to worry anymore. They could have done that, but they did the cheapo kill him at the end anyway bit. And it's just like, how many movies have we seen this with? We've seen this with Darth Vader when he turned good again at the end of Return of the Jedi years and years ago. They went and did it a few years with Endgame, with Marvel's Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark died, killing Thanos and undoing all the damage with the Infinity Gauntlet. So, yeah, they broke tradition by killing Bond. I mean, the crying bit, yeah, whatever. I can live or deal with that. I can live or I can kind of deal with it, but I understand why people don't like that. I understand. But then they had to go and rub it in our nose by killing him. Like, I don't care if the movie ends on a note where it's like the wife is speaking of reverence to James, which they certainly ended off with. Like, this is your father. He was a great man. You will respect his name in this house. But to me, it just felt cheap. To me, it felt like the writers and directors and the executives throwing in their sneakily little fuck you Bond kind of thing. We're in charge now kind of thing. So now that leaves us wondering. So that leaves us, and considering how, the woke apocalypse that we have in Hollywood right now, it leaves me wondering what the future of James Bond is. And it's not one that I honestly am entertaining the thought of joyfully. Hey, Omega, you're late for the stream, but the video will be up on YouTube, so you can listen to the whole thing when it's up. Uh, so overall, in general, No Time to Die. They finally, in overall, they did 2 steps forward after the. Dude, no spell check, and I'm not hyped for Hollywood. Yeah, I'm not hyped either. It's like in a way, in the background of this movie, they finally said, okay, it's almost like I can almost hear it, imagine it, where it's like, okay, we killed Craig Bond, now we can make him however we want. In which case, I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't know what they're gonna do with Bond after this, but it does not give me bright feelings with how they ended it and what they're gonna and where they may do with it. It's just like I don't know. I don't know. I fear for it. But I guess we'll see what happens, right? If not, if it ends up being what I fear it'll be, well, there's the pulps, and there's the prior movies, and there's the original Ian Fleming novels, which honestly I want to read at this point. I want to go seek those out, like I want to go read the old Shadow and Doc Savage pulps, provided they're in print, of course. And I really want to get the previous Bond movies on Blu-ray. I need to do that. Just for the sake of completion, I do kind of want to watch Quantum of Solace to see whether or not it's good or bad or not. But I don't expect much more than what I've already seen, to be honest. So in summary, No Time to Die did some things I liked, but in general it was a letdown. It surprised me in some ways, infuriated me in other ways. So I won't call it Last Jedi bad. It has redeeming values to it, but it did by the end of it, I did leave in very pissed off with it. You have that movie on DVD. Oh, okay. It did, yeah. By the end, it left me very conflicted with it, to the point that I don't know if I can say I would, if I'll remember this movie fondly outside of a few things. And really, it just shows that I think there was a lot of wasted potential with Daniel Craig, because I'm not going to lie, I think Daniel Craig is a good action actor. He does have a good brutish presence to him that I thought was good in previous movies. I liked it. But he just needed a little more of that Bond flair. Last Jedi is trash. I left pissed off when I walked out of the theater. Ugh. The first time I watched it, I tried to like it, like forced myself to like it. But when I watched it again, that was when I really was like, okay, fuck this movie. I'm kind of borderline with this one, honestly. It's just, had it not been for the ending, I would have been like, okay, that was fine. That was a good fitting end. But nope, they had to go and kill Bond off in fiery but mostly peaceful missiles to stop Corona Chan, nanobot Corona Chan, basically. So Casino Royale, that everyone loves that one. Skyfall, everyone loves that one. Again, never saw them more than once because they just did not have enough of that James Bond flair to me. I thought Craig again needed a little more of that suave and wit that I've come to associate, even that previous Bond movies had. So they could have done more with it in that regard. And the whole long-running side subplot of Bond trying to retire and settle down, yeah, they wasted that because well, he's dead, and he only thing left of him is Madeline and the daughter surviving. I miss the gadgets, like the previous Bonds. Oh, I do too. I would say out of Craig Bond definitely had the least amount of gadgetry in the whole of his 5 films. Again, not Content Quantum because I haven't seen it, but in this movie they tried a little bit more. They had a super glider. They had the EMP watch, which of course does nothing except kill the one henchman, when it also could have solved Bond's nanobot problem by the end of the movie, and he would have been perfectly fine. They literally wrote the key to solving the movie's troubles, and it's like, okay, you're just gonna forget that, right? And you have the opening. You have the opening of the film where he does have the classic Sean Connery Bond car with machine guns in the headlights. So Daniel Craig Bond. I've liked aspects of this era, but in other aspects, it needed more of that old fashioned Bond spark to it. I did not think there was enough of it, to the point where it kind of just feels like Jason Bourne to me. And then they go and end it off in the final Craig movie in a way that ultimately left me feeling very conflicted, very hollow at the end, and just, I guess, sad, because it's like you could have given this character a send off that would have fitted this interpretation, and instead you just pissed it away. And I don't want to hate Daniel Craig. I think he had better material this time when it came to the classic Bond wit and dialogue, but everything else, the way the story's handled just lets him down. If anything, this whole 5-movie saga is a letdown. I actually want to go back and watch the last Pierce Brosnan movie to see if it really is as bad as people say it is, because let's be honest, I don't know. I actually want to go back and watch that to see if it's actually aged better than people said it has. So if I had to, yeah, Craig Bond era started I guess strong for what it was. Jason Bourne is amazing 2 films, but John Wick, Die Another Day kind of sucked when the last time I saw it. Yeah, I have to watch it again because I only watched it once as a kid and I didn't really know what to make of it. I thought it was a little too goofy, like Moonraker level goofy. If anything, I would say it was probably the goofiest Bond movie that had existed until that point. Because with Moonraker, well, you had a freaking space shuttle battle and everything. So for whatever for in the Cape. So for as far as this era of Bond is concerned, I have very mixed feelings about it. So I can't say it's the definitive Bond movies that I think Craig deserved or could have done, could have gotten with him. And it certainly didn't end in a way that I felt was satisfying for the character, which leaves me ultimately dreading what's to come, honestly. So, overall, movie came and went. Could it have been better? Oh, hell of a lot better. But I guess it is what it is, right? I don't want to leave this review on a whole doom and gloom note, but yeah, kind of hard not to with how the whole script fell apart at the end and how the character gets his due in the way that I really wish he didn't. So yeah, shot nice, music's nice, acting was for the most part fine, just needed better story and so on, and better payoff to the story, that's for sure. So I got nothing. I'm not gonna do review scores for this thing. Honestly, I don't think I've done with scores in general because honestly, what else can you say at this point? I'm too mixed about this movie to honestly give the movie a proper score, to be perfectly honest, even if I was to do it. So I'm just gonna say could have been a lot worse, but it could have been way better also. So yeah, disappointing end to a disappointing era of 007. Will it be better with the next inevitable reboot? Who knows? But either way, that's this movie in a nutshell. And definitely a shorter 1 hour and 7 minutes. So definitely shorter than the movie itself. That's for sure. Which, by the way, 2 hours and 40 minutes too long, in my opinion. Way too long, but whatever. That's a last minute little nitpick. So yeah, No Time to Die, No Time to Lie. That's about all. So if you like the stream and want to subscribe, go ahead. And I will, for future stream reviews, post links on Twitter. So for those who want to join in, y'all can click on there, and I'll see y'all on the next one. So this is 00AK signing out. Peace out, y'all.